Welcome back to Daytime New York Region. Raul Junaja is a local community activist, New York Region resident, takes special pride in his community, also a DJ and an author. So we're very pleased that we could welcome in at the beginning of a month that has everything to do with racial understanding. Now, Raul, you got lots of socially conscious projects on the go. I want to talk about your hip-hop literacy campaign. Let us know a little bit about that.
Well, it was basically launched last year with the support of Elmore Leonard when he was in Toronto. It was the last stop of his North American tour, you know, the author of Out of Sight and Get Shorty and Be Cool. And basic idea was just to connect to youth who maybe aren't interested in reading or maybe just haven't found the right books, you know, to get them started in the process. So I said, why don't we start with maybe some of the books, you know, which were turned into their favorite movies. So something like Out of Sight, which was, you know, Jennifer Lopez and George Clooney, you know, something like that. And, you know, at least if we get them started with that, hopefully move them on, you know, to Shakespeare eventually, or especially like books by musicians, you know, rappers in particular, like Tupac Shakur. Again, just to get them started, something, you know, they can be interested in.
At least they're reading something no matter what it is.
Exactly, yeah.
So you picked those initial topics to get them interested and hooked, and then where do you go from there? How do you build on that?
Yeah, you know what, I think it's pretty much wherever they want to go. So, I mean, you know, Shakespeare, I think, is a very important thing that they should go to as well. But, yeah, I mean, not only, it's important, I think, that the teachers are promoting the original form of Shakespeare and of course, the books. But, I mean, as a producer myself and someone who has a affinity for movies, I say, okay, but do they get the story? Do they have a connection to the characters? And if they do, I think that would be, you know, even if it's a movie adaptation of Shakespeare, there's been quite a few good ones, I think. You know, and then maybe even moving on to nonfiction, you know, autobiographies of different, you know, political leaders and stuff. You never know.
And it's interesting that a society that holds hip-hop as so important and rap music is so important could downplay the importance of literacy, because the two are intertwined. It's literally a combination of words and the combination of words, just two different forms.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, especially for movies, you know, and this is why also luckily we've got the support of some actors like Robert Forster. You know, got Oscar nomination for Jackie Brown. He's written us a fantastic letter, and we're going to be recording an audio PSA with him as well. Leslie Bega from The Sopranos as well. So, I mean, this is something too, and of course, musicians and rappers and whatnot, because this is something where we want them to also stress that for their professions, people, like you said, don't realize that, you know, for recording, for live performances, I mean, you have to read, you have to write, you have to memorize lines. I mean, this is integral. This is one of the most important things.
So what kind of reaction have you seen so far from younger children?
It's been just fantastic. I mean, you know, already the good thing is the stuff, and that's why, like, we're working with quite a few publishers, you know, even like MTV Books and whatnot, because luckily the stuff is out there. It's just a matter of not only promoting it, but, you know, getting it in their hands, and that's why we're actually working with quite a few campus radio stations, pretty much every major Canadian city, some in Southern California, as well, doing giveaways of books and DVDs and, you know, other things, all kind of literacy related or somehow connected, books and movies and that sort of thing. And yeah, interest has been quite good. Now,
another project you've got a hand in is the Mandela's Fund Toonie Day, which also involves students and young people. Can you tell us how that works?
Totally. Yeah, this is February 18th. It's been happening quite a few years now, and it's Nelson Mandela Children's Fund Canada. And our involvement is a Muslim Canadian rapper who I'm working with, Iman Faith. Actually, you know, we've put together an AIDS awareness rap song, basically, and not something, you know, too preachy, but definitely something that's going to connect. I mean, fantastic lyrics, good beat. It's a hit single, basically.
Gotta have a good beat, dude.
You know, but it's on that edutainment level, and we're going to be actually putting that out in support of the Mandela Children's Fund to, you know, raise awareness. And even with the Toonie Day, this is something across Canada, pretty much any school, university can get involved through their website, and, you know.
Excellent project, and you've got tons of irons in the fire right now. So when we come back, we're going to talk about, there's a Black Panther DVD called the Huey P. Newton story, and we're going to talk a little bit about your work with that and show a few clips. That's coming up next on Daytime New York Region.
Welcome back to Daytime New York Region. We're talking with York Region resident, DJ and community activist, Raul Junaja, a.k.a. Deejay Ra. Welcome.
I should have an AKA. I should, just to be cooler.
Yeah.
DJ
To
something.
represent. Yeah.
I'll work on
AKA,
that.
Yeah.
also known as. And we actually have a clip from one of your projects. Can you set the scene before we play?
Yeah, this is basically a Huey P. Newton story. It's a Spike Lee production, kind of a cross between theater, play, and a documentary. It was released in the States about 5 years ago through PBS, never available in Canada, and we've put it out through the Huey Foundation and this Ventura Canada.
So people who may not know, tell who Huey is.
Huey is basically, like they say, one of the last great American revolutionaries right near the end of the civil rights movement after the assassinations of Martin Luther King and Malcolm X. He basically carried things on and really started pushing on a political level worldwide. I mean, there was Panthers in Israel and India. I mean, it was just
He's a
really
co-founder of the Black Panthers.
Black Panther, exactly, with David Hilliard and Bobby Seale, who we also work with, and some of the projects, free health care, food donations, free breakfast programs. I mean, this is something we almost take for granted in Canada,
It's everywhere.
especially. And if you look at how some of the things started, I think.
So what's the
Alright.
clip we're going to see is Huey talking, correct?
It's Huey talking specifically about some of the projects, and I think for Canadian viewers, especially, they'll find it quite interesting to see some of the things we enjoy now and some of the sacrifices that were made.
All right. Here we have a clip from a Huey P. Newton story on DayTime York Region.
You don't read about the survival programs that we had going on for the people, free children breakfast program, trying to feed some of these little hungry kids before they go off to school in the morning. You don't read about that. You don't read about the educational program that we had going on for these kids, for the older folks as well. You don't read about the shoe giveaway, clothing giveaway, coat giveaway that we had going on back east so people don't freeze to death during the winter months. You don't read about that. You don't read about the free prison busing program where we bus people from the communities out to the prison, to the penitentiaries, so the people can visit the loved ones who are incarcerated. You don't read about that. You don't read about the free ambulance service that we had going on in Winston-Salem, North Carolina chapter, because black people in Winston-Salem, North Carolina were denied basic emergency health care. You don't read about that. You don't read about that.
Now, Raul, he's talking very fast there.
Yeah, very,
He's an intense guy.
try to get as much out, and fantastic actor Roger Guenveur Smith. He's been in pretty much every one of Spike Lee's movies, and like I said, this was performed pretty much off Broadway, throughout the 90s, and now thankfully on DVD.
So when people see the DVD, again, first time available in Canada, what do you want them to take away from it? As a viewer yourself, what did you take away, and what do you want other people to take away from it?
Like I was saying, I mean, I think in Canada, with the spirit of multiculturalism, I think it's something where it's really like a hidden piece of history. I know people know about, Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, and then now Mandela, in the 90s, but there's kind of a missing part in the 60s and 70s, and I think after they see this, they'll really get when you hear Black Panthers, people sometimes get a little nervous. They don't understand, all the details. So I think if they can get kind of a missing piece of history and move on to so many other projects. I mean, even the Huey Foundation, they have a youth rap group now as well, who are doing some more projects with a badass mixtape, with Melvin Van Peebles, and same thing, just it's film history, it's political history, it's North American history. So.
And you got to know who you were to figure out who you're going to be.
Where you're going, exactly. Yeah, totally.
Can we kind of switch gears here and talk about the Gray Owl birthday recognition program you've got going on?
Totally, yeah. This is basically, it was kind of started through the CBC Greatest Canadian contest, and I was just so surprised by his lack of involvement, lack of inclusion into it. And I said, okay, maybe first, we were doing some encouragement of Lord Attenborough's, Gray Owl film, which was kind of like a Canadian version of Gandhi, I compare it to, just letting people know, they have to see this. This is Archie Bellany. This is, in my opinion, one of the greatest Canadian heroes. First author to lecture about native rights in Harvard. I mean, this is...
Because he was a European man who wrote as an Indian man.
Exactly.
To talk about their rights and also the environment.
Exactly.
At a time when no one else was.
Yeah, and this is something where people have previously looked at that as a negative, but I've taken that as something so positive. Like, this is Canadian multicultural. I mean, myself being of South Asian heritage, being a hip-hop DJ, this to me is Canadian multiculturalism, and if we can show some recognition for him and his past work. I mean, I'm working on a kind of like an audiobook CD of a children's story of his called Sajo and the Beaver People, and same thing. I think same way America celebrates some of its political leaders, Lincoln and Washington. I really hope Canadians can look at Gray Owl in the same way.
Well, we should be proud of who we are. We should be proud of our ancestors. We're proud of those forerunners that went before us. We should know more about them, and we should take pride in the work that they did. Thank you so much for coming in. Again, for more information,